The rain hammered the roof of the old craftsman house in suburban Ohio like it was trying to drown out the secrets buried inside. But Christopher knew better. Storms like this only amplified the thunder in his chest. He was 23, fresh out of community college with a graphic design degree that felt as useless as his hidden sketchbooks full of men who looked like the ones he'd stolen glances at in coffee shops. Tonight, over meatloaf and mashed potatoes, he was going to shatter his father's world. The man who'd raised him alone after mom's cancer stole her away when he was 10. "Dad," Christopher whispered to his reflection in the fogged bathroom mirror, his voice cracking like the lightning outside. "I'm gay. And I can't pretend anymore." The words hung there, invisible knives, as he stepped into the kitchen where the man who built bridges for a living waited, oblivious to the chasm about to open beneath them. Jack Harlan wiped his calloused hands on his jeans, the ones still dusted with sawdust from the garage workshop where he escaped the ache of empty rooms. At 58, he was a pillar in Milford, the kind of dad who coached Little League with a bark that hit his soft spots, who fixed neighbors' roofs without asking for a dime. He'd buried his grief in work after Sarah died, pouring it into Christopher like concrete, strong, unyielding, but cold to the touch. "Smells good, kid," Jack said, sliding into his chair at the scarred oak table that had seen better Christmases. The boy's boy looked pale under the yellow bulb, eyes darting like a cornered deer. Jack chalked it up to the job hunt. Christopher had been moping since graduation, holed up in that shoebox apartment downtown. "You eat yet? I saved you the big end." He forked a slab onto his son's plate, the gesture automatic, a lifeline tossed into waters he didn't know were churning. Christopher's fork trembled as he pushed peas around, the steam rising like smoke from a battlefield. He'd rehearsed this 100 times in his head, scripted it like one of his design's clean lines. Bold colors, but now, with Jack's expectant gaze, it all blurred into chaos. The clock ticked mercilessly, each second a hammer blow. "Dad," he started, voice barely above the rain's roar. "There's something I need to tell you. Something big." Jack paused mid-bite, fork hovering, his broad shoulders tensing under the flannel that still smelled faintly of Mom's lavender soap. "Spit it out, Chris. You know me, nothing you can't say." The words were gruff, but there was that undercurrent, the one Christopher remembered from scraped knees and schoolyard bullies, a father's armor, forged in fire. Heart slamming against his ribs, Christopher set down his fork. "I'm gay, Dad. I've known for years. And I love someone. A guy named Alex." The silence that followed was louder than any storm, thick as the humidity clinging to their skin. And in that void, Christopher braced for the fall. Jack's face didn't crumple or harden, it froze, a mask carved from the granite of his Midwestern stoicism. The fork clattered to his plate, echoing like a gunshot in the quiet kitchen. Christopher's breath caught, memories flooding unbidden, Jack teaching him to bait a hook at Lake Erie, the two of them laughing until their sides ached. The night after the funeral, when Jack held him through sobs that shook the bed frame. That man, the one who'd whispered, "You're my whole world now, son," couldn't possibly understand this. "Gay?" Jack repeated, the word foreign on his tongue, like a tool he'd never held. His eyes, those steel blue eyes so like Christopher's, searched his son's face not with revulsion, but with a dawning confusion that twisted like a knife. "You mean Like, for real. Not some phase. Christopher nodded. Throat tight. Tears pricking hot behind his lids. For real. Dad. It's who I am. The rain eased to a patter, as if the sky itself held its breath. And Jack leaned back, chair creaking under his weight, the weight of a lifetime crashing down. What came next wasn't anger, not the bellow Christopher had steeled himself for, the one he'd heard in whispers from friends about disowning dads and shattered families. Instead, Jack's hand rose slowly, trembling, and covered Christopher's on the tablia grip rough from years of blueprints and hammers, but steady as the Ohio River. Jesus. Kid. He murmured, voice cracking like old timber. Why didn't you say sooner? I've been blind as a bat. Christopher blinked, the world tilting. I was scared. Scared you'd hate me. Jack's laugh was a broken thing, wet with unshed tears. Hate you. Christ on a cracker. You're my blood. My boy. He pulled Christopher into a hug then, fierce and unyielding, the kind that smelled of aftershave and regret. And as sobs racked them both, the dam broke not in fury, but in a flood of love so raw it scorched. But the night wasn't done unraveling them. As they pulled apart, faces streaked and shining under the kitchen light, Jack's eyes darkened with shadows Christopher had never glimpsed. Sit, he commanded softly, pouring 2 fingers of bourbon from the cabinet's hidden bottle, the one for anniversaries and aches. There's something you need to know about your old man. Christopher sank back, pulse racing anew, the meatloaf forgotten and congealing. Jack stared into the amber liquid, swirling it like secrets. Your mom. She knew things about me. Things I buried deeper than her grave. The words hung heavy, laced with a vulnerability that made the room feel too small. Christopher leaned in, the hook of curiosity pulling him under. What do you mean, Dad? Jack met his gaze, the lines around his eyes deepening. I wasn't always this. Straight arrow fella. Back in Nam, there was a buddy. Tommy. We were closer than brothers. And one night, under the stars in that godforsaken jungle, I felt something I couldn't name. Something like what you're carrying now. The confession landed like shrapnel, embedding in Christopher's chest his father, the war hero, the unflinching patriarch, harboring a ghost of his own. The bourbon burned going down, but not as much as the truth rising. Jack spoke haltingly at first, words stumbling over decades of silence, painting pictures of a young enlistee from Milford, shipped off to Vietnam in '68 with stars in his eyes and a duffel of dreams. Tommy Riley, wiry Irish kid from Boston, with a grin that cut through the mud and the fear. They bunked together in the 101st, shared smokes and stories under mosquito nets, the kind of bond that bloomed in hellfire. He saved my ass more times than I can count, Jack said, voice roughened by memory. Pulling me from a rice paddy ambush, sharing his last MRE when I was starving. And that night, after a patrol gone bad, we were holed up in a hooch, rain pounding like tonight. He looked at me. Chris really looked, and I felt it twist in my gut. Like lightning. Christopher's hand found his father's again, anchoring them both. Did you? Jack shook his head, a sad smile ghosting his lips. Nah. Too scared. The world wasn't kind to fellas like that then. COs breathing down your neck. Brothers who'd turn on you faster than a viper. So I swallowed it. Married your mom when I got home. She knew. Though smart as a whip. She was. Said it didn't change a damn thing. Love's love. Jack. She'd say. Tears traced silent paths down Jack's cheeks now. The first Christopher had ever seen from the man who never cried. I thought burying it made me strong. Made me a good dad. But seeing you tonight. Carry in that weight alone. God. I failed you. Christopher shook his head fiercely. The roles reversing in a heartbeat. No. Dad. You didn't. This. It's freeing us both. They sat like that for what felt like hours. The storm outside mirroring the one within raging. Then ebbing into a tentative calm. Jack raised his glass, clinking it against Christopher's untouched one. To truths. And to Tommy. Wherever he is. Hope he found his peace. The toast sealed something sacred. A bridge rebuilt from the ruins of unspoken fears. As midnight crept in, Christopher felt the first stirrings of hope. A fragile bloom in the wreckage. But dawn would bring the world beyond these walls. And with it, the real test. The next morning broke gray and sodden over Milford. The kind of Ohio autumn that clung to your bones like doubt. Christopher woke on the living room couch. Neck stiff from the lumpy throw pillow. The events of the night replaying in fractured dreams. Jack's confession. The hug that mended cracks he didn't know were there. Coffee brewed in the kitchen. Its bitter aroma pulling him upright. Jack was already at the stove. Flipping eggs with a spatula. Humming an old Johnny Cash tune under his breath. Mornin'. Sunshine. He grunted. Sliding a plate across the counter without looking up. No awkwardness. No tiptoeing, just normalcy. Laced with a new undercurrent of raw honesty. Christopher slid onto a stool. Fork in hand. Marveling at how the light hit his father's profile. Etching lines of quiet strength. Thanks. Dad. For everything. Jack waved it off. But his eyes softened. Water under the bridge. Kid. Now, you gotta call your aunt in Cleveland today. Tell her the prodigal's home. The call to Aunt Marlene was a minefield Christopher hadn't anticipated. Marlene. Mom's sister. The family glue with her sharp tongue and sharper intuition. Picked up on the third ring. Jack Harlan. You old coot. What's this about, Chris? Jack cleared his throat, handing the phone over like a hot potato. Christopher's palms slicked with sweat as he recounted the night, not the full confession. Just the coming out. Testing the waters. Silence stretched. Then Marlene's voice cracked through. Warm as fresh bread. Oh. Honey. About damn time. Your mom always said you had her heart fierce and true. We'll drive down this weekend. Hugs for everyone. Jack. Eavesdropping from the sink. Shot him a thumbs up. The gesture boyish and absurdly endearing. For the first time, Christopher breathed easy, the weight lifting like fog off the Cuyahoga. But as he hung up, his phone buzzed a text from Alex. Miss you. Dinner tonight. Tell me how it went. The name on the screen sent a flutter through him. Equal parts thrill and terror. Alex Rivera. The barista at Brewhaven with ink-sleeved arms and a laugh that lit up rainy days. They'd been dancing around this for months, stolen kisses in the stockroom. Late-night drives to the lake, but last night changed the rules. Christopher typed back. It went better than I dreamed. Pick you up at 7. The afternoon blurred in a haze of errands. Jack dragging him to the hardware store for supplies. Really just an excuse to talk. Over nails and paint swatches. Jack opened up more. Fragments of Tommy spilling out like sawdust. He wrote me once. After the war. Postcard from San Francisco. Missed the stars. Jack. Find yours. Never replied, coward that I was. Christopher listened. Heart aching for the boy his father had been. The love unclaimed. You can still find him. Dad. Google. Facebook, people do it all the time. Jack chuckled. Low and rueful. Maybe. But first. You. This Alex fella, treat him right. Or I'll have words. The protectiveness. Fierce and fatherly. Wrapped around Christopher like armor. By dusk. As he showered off the day's grit. He felt seen, truly seen for the first time. Alex waited outside his apartment building. Leaning against a lamppost in ripped jeans and a hoodie that hugged his lean frame. Dark curls tousled by the wind. 24. Half Colombian with eyes like polished obsidian. He was the spark that had ignited Christopher's courage. Hey. Stranger. Alex murmured, pulling him into a kiss that tasted of mint and promise. Right there on the sidewalk. No hiding. Not anymore. They drove to a hole-in-the-wall Italian place on the edge of town. Candles flickering in red checkered cloths. The air thick with garlic and unspoken fears. Over spaghetti carbonara. Christopher spilled it all, the rain. The confession. Jack's secret. Alex's hand tightened on his under the table. Thumb tracing circles. That's huge. Babe. Your dad's a legend. But as dessert Aravet tiramisu, dusted with cocoa, Alex's face shadowed. My family's not like that. Pops is old school Catholic. Threw my cousin out last year for the same thing. If I tell them. The vulnerability in his voice mirrored Christopher's own, binding them tighter. We'll face it together. Christopher vowed, leaning across to kiss his knuckles. Like a team. The drive home was a cocoon of quiet intimacy. Hands intertwined over the gear shift. Stars pricking the clearing sky. At Christopher's door, Alex lingered. Forehead to forehead. I love you, he whispered. The words of vow against the gathering storm. Love you too. Inside. Alone with the echo. Christopher texted Jack. Alex says hi. Best night ever. The reply pinged back. Proud of you. Son. Sleep well. But sleep evaded him. Mind racing to the weekend Aunt Marlene's visit. The family dinner that would test this fragile peace. Little did he know. The ripples were spreading. Whispers already stirring in Milford's tight-knit veins. Aunt Marlene arrived like a whirlwind on Saturday. Her station wagon piled high with Tupperware of pierogies and a bottle of homemade wine that could strip paint. 55 and feisty. With Mom's auburn hair streaked silver and a laugh that filled rooms. She enveloped Christopher in a bear hug that smelled of vanilla and resolve. Look at you. All grown and glowing. She crowed, holding him at arm's length. Handsome as your daddy. Twice the heart. Jack hovered in the doorway. gruff as ever, but his eyes betrayed the warmth. "Marlene, you gonna feed us or fuss?" The banter flowed easy, a balm on the raw edges, as they unpacked in the kitchen. Over coffee, she cornered Christopher while Jack pretended to fiddle with the toaster. "Heard the news. Kiddo. Sarah be dancing a jig. You okay?" Her hand on his squeezed truth from him the fear, the relief, the budding joy with Alex. Marlene nodded, eyes misty. Family's family. Blood or chosen. And that Alex. Bring him round. I'll vet him myself. The afternoon unfolded in lazy domesticity, Marlene commandeering the kitchen for a feast of stuffed cabbage rolls and rye bread. Jack roped into peeling potatoes with grumbled efficiency. Christopher escaped to the backyard, phone in hand, video calling Alex from the old swing set that creaked under his weight. "They're great," he said, panning to Marlene bossing Jack around. "Dad's different. Lighter." Alex's smile lit the screen, his shift at the cafe evident in the flour-dusted apron. "Sounds perfect. Wish I could crash. But hey, surprise for you later." The tease hung tantalizing, pulling a grin from Christopher despite the nerves knotting his gut. As evening fell, he invited Alex over, heart pounding with the audacity of it bringing his boyfriend home, into this newly sacred space. Alex arrived at 6 sharp, bouquet of wildflowers and hand daisies and lavender. Simple and sincere. Jack answered the door, sizing him up with a once-over that could curdle milk, then clapped him on the shoulder hard enough to jolt. "Heard a lot about you, son. Come in, Marlene's about to declare war on the oven." Alex's laugh eased the tension, charming as ever, and Marlene swooped in like a hawk, appraising. "Well, aren't you a looker? Flowers. Smart boy." Dinner was a symphony of clinking silverware and overlapping stories, Jack recounting Christopher's childhood penchant for drawing superheroes with capes made of rainbows, a detail Christopher had forgotten. Blushing furiously, Alex sharing tales of his abuela's empanadas in Cleveland's Little Italy. Under the table, their knees brushed, a secret Morse code of connection. But as plates cleared, the air thickened Marlene's knowing glance. Jack's subtle shift. "So," Jack said, pouring wine, "Chris tells me you're in art too. What's your poison?" The question opened the floodgates, Alex leaning forward with animated fire as sketches of urban grit, murals for community centers, dreams of a gallery show. Christopher watched, chest swelling with pride. This man who saw beauty in broken things. Marlene beamed. "But Jack..." Jack listened intently, fingers drumming the stem of his glass. Then, abruptly, he stood, disappearing into the den. The room stilled, Marlene's brow furrowing. "Give him a minute. Loves." Minutes stretched, taut as bowstrings, until Jack returned not with anger, but a dusty photo album clutched like contraband. Figured it was time, he muttered, thumping it open on the table. Faded Polaroids spilled out, young Jack in fatigues, arms slung around a grinning Tommy, their faces alight with jungle camaraderie. "This here's the fella I told you about. Chris." "Tommy." Alex's eyes widened. "Respectful. He looks like he meant the world." Jack nodded, throat working. Did. Still does. In a way. Marlene reached over, squeezing his hand. Oh, Jack. You brave old fool. The album became a portal. Stories pouring forth in the candlelit glow. Tommy's quick wit saving patrols from boredom. The unspoken ache of parting at the dock in 71. Alex shared his own fragments, a closeted uncle lost to AIDS in the 80s. The family's hushed shame. Bonds formed in the sharing. Laughter mingling with tears. Until the wine bottle emptied and the clock chimed 10. As Marlene and Alex helped clear, Jack pulled Christopher aside in the hallway. Good kid. That Alex. Treats you right. The approval, quiet and profound, sealed the night. Hugs at the door lingered. Promises of more dinners exchanged. Alone with Jack, Christopher crashed on the couch again, the house humming with new life. But in the quiet, doubt whispered, Milford wasn't Cleveland. Whispers would spread. Judgments follow. How long before the world tested this fragile miracle? Monday morning hurled Christopher back into the grind. His beat-up Civic rattling toward the design firm downtown, where he'd landed a freelance gig mock-ups for local realtors. Soul-sucking but steady. The high from the weekend clashed with the fluorescent drudgery. Colleagues chattering about football scores while he doodled Alex's profile in the margins. A text buzzed, lunch. Park by the river. Red heart from Alex. Of course. Christopher grinned, slipping out early to the Cuyahoga's banks, where willows draped like veils over benches worn smooth by lovers and loners. Alex waited with takeout subs, his presence a sunbreak in the overcast day. They ate cross-legged on a quilt, feet tangled, the river's murmur underscoring their easy rhythm. Dad loves you, Christopher teased, stealing a bite. Alex smirked. Yeah. Or just the empanada recipe I promised. Laughter bubbled, but sobered as Alex's gaze turned serious. Heard from my sister family reunion next month. Pops asked about you. Time to loop them in. The question landed like a stone in still water. Ripples of anxiety spreading. Christopher knew Alex's world, devout, close-knit, with a father who quoted scripture like law. You ready for that fallout? Alex shrugged, but hurt flickered. With you. Yeah. But if he pulls the fire and brimstone? He trailed off, kissing Christopher fiercely instead. A declaration against fear. They lingered until sirens wailed distant. A reminder of the city's underbelly. Back at the office, Christopher's phone lit up. Not Alex, but Jack. Town hall tonight. Come if you want. Might need backup. Curiosity piqued. He arrived at the community center to a packed room buzzing with election fever, local races heating up. The air thick with coffee and agendas. Jack sat front row, nodding to familiar faces. But his posture was rigid. Christopher slid beside him. What's this about? Jack muttered. New ordinance. Family values crap, folks pushin' to defund the rec center's inclusivity programs. For our kids. The meeting ignited like dry tinder. Councilman Hargrove, red-faced and booming, railed against agenda pushing, his eyes sweeping the room like a spotlight. Whispers rose. Neighbors Christopher knew from block parties, faces twisting in disapproval. Then a young mom stood, voice quavering, my son's trans. This center saved him. Counseling, art classes, Don't take that away. Applause sputtered. But Hargrove steamrolled. Jack's jaw clenched. Knuckles white. When open mic hit, he rose, the room hushing at the sight of the Harlan patriarch. Jack Harlan, bridge builder 30 years. He started, voice steady as rebar. I ain't one for speeches. But hear me, family ain't about what the Bible says or don't. It's about loving your own, no matter what. Murmurs swelled. Christopher's heart hammered. Jack pressed on, eyes locking on Hargrove. My boy Christopher's gay. Proud of it. And if that's a threat to your values, then your values are built on sand. Gasps rippled, heads swiveling to Christopher, who sat frozen, exposed under the harsh lights. Hargrove sputtered. This ain't the place, but Jack cut him off. It is. 'Cause if we let fear win, we lose our kids. All of them. He sat amid stunned silence, then collapsed tentative at first, building to a roar from the back, where the young mom beamed through tears. The ordnance fizzled in the aftermath, tabled amid uproar. Outside, under sodium lamps, Jack clapped Christopher's back. Sorry, kid. Had to. Christopher pulled him into a hug, fierce and grateful. Hero. Dad. Absolute hero. Word spread like Ohio wildfire text from Marlene, attaboy. A call from Alex, heard at the cafe. Marry him. But as Christopher drove home, a truck tailgate too close. High beams glaring coincidence. Or warning. The town's undercurrent stirred. And with it, shadows lengthened. The backlash hit midweek. Insidious as rust on iron. Christopher's inbox flooded with anonymous emails, Bible verses twisted into barbs. Sicko scrawled in subject lines. At the firm, whispers trailed him, Harlan's boy. Figures. He powered through, channeling fury into designs that bled color-vibrant protests on canvas. Alex fared worse. His cafe manager pulled him aside. Heard about your boyfriend's dad. Folks complaining. Alex shrugged it off over late-night pizza at Christopher's apartment. But the strain etched lines around his eyes. Pops called. Heard rumors. That true. I said ya. Hung up on me. Christopher held him through the silence. Bodies entwined on the futon. Whispers of we'll get through, a litany against the night. Jack, ever the fixer, showed up Friday with burgers and a plan. Town's talking. Let's talk back. Over greasy fries. He outlined a community picnic Harlan style. No agendas. Just food and faces. Show him we're still us. Prep consumed the weekend, Marlene hauling coolers from Cleveland. Alex enlisting cafe pals for desserts. Jack fired up the grill in the backyard. Smoke signals of normalcy. By noon Sunday, the park swelled neighbors tentative at first, then warming over ribs and coleslaw. Hargrove lurked at the edges, clipboard in hand, but even he accepted a plate. Christopher manned the face-painting booth with Alex, turning kids' cheeks into butterflies and superheroes. Laughter a shield. See that? Alex murmured, dabbing glitter on a giggling girl's nose. This is us winning. But as sun dipped, a shadow fell Deputy Tompkins, Jack's old fishing buddy, pulling him aside. Words exchanged low and heated. Jack's face paled. Later, Over cleanup. He confessed. Tompkins says Hargrove's stirring petition to review my contracts. Moral clause bullshit. Rage boiled in Christopher. Fight it. Jack's smile was weary. Already am. For you. That night, vulnerability cracked open anew. Alex stayed over. The three of them on the porch swing with beers. Stars wheeling overhead. Jack shared more of Tommy letters burned in regret. A San Francisco address long cold. Tracked him online. He admitted sheepishly. Died 98. AIDS. The word hung. A ghost. Alex squeezed his hand. He'd be proud of this. Tears came then. Unashamed. Binding them in shared grief. As Alex and Christopher retreated to the guest room. Bodies seeking solace in slow exploration kisses tracing scars. Promises etched in skin. Jack sat alone. Album open. Whispering to shadows. Dawn brought resolve, a call to a lawyer buddy. Papers filed. But Monday. The hammer fell. Jack's foreman ringing. Layoff. Jack. Budget cuts. Code for purge. Christopher found him in the garage. Tools idle. Will appeal. Jack's eyes. Red-rimmed. Met his. Worth it. Son. Every bit. The layoff rippled outward. Milford's economy a web of favors. Friends distanced. Invitations dried up. Christopher's freelance dried too. Clients citing fit. Alex's shifts cut. Whispers of boycott. Yet in the siege, they fortified, potlucks with allies. The young mom from the meeting starting a support group. One evening, as rain lashed again, Christopher and Alex drove to Lake Erie. Tires humming on wet blacktop. Parked under pines. Waves crashing like applause. They made love in the backseat urgent. Tender. A reclamation. No matter what. Alex gasped. You're my home. Back home. Jack waited with stew and stories. His presence a beacon. But as winter loomed, a letter arrived. Hargrove's petition. Signatures mounting. The fight sharpened. Kith and kin drawing lines in the frost. Winter clamped down on Milford like a vice. Snow blanketing secrets in white hush. The petition snowballed. Hargrove rallying church groups with sermons on Sodom. Jack's appeal stalled in red tape. His savings a thinning thread. Christopher scavenged gigs online. Late nights blurring screens with logos for queer nonprofits. Ironic armor. Alex. Resilient. Picked up bartending at a dive near the warehouse district. Slinging drinks to blue-collar ghosts. Their dates became stolen midnight walks in powdered parks. Bundled against cold. Hands gloved but hearts bare. Remember that first kiss? Alex murmured one night. Breath fogging under street lamps. Christopher pulled him close. Stockroom. Flour everywhere. Laughter warmed them. But homecoming soured, Jack poring over job listings. Face gaunt. Aunt Marlene descended again, armed with legal contacts and ferocity. This town's got rocks in its head. She fumed over Coco. Plotting counter rally at the courthouse. Testimonies from the rec center kids. Christopher volunteered designs, bold posters of diverse hands linked. Tagline, Love builds bridges. Jack proofed them in the garage. Pride flickering. Like your Montmartre soul. But cracks showed, arguments over strategy. Jack's gruffness sharpening to snaps. One blizzard night. Tempers frayed, Christopher pushing for public coming out. Jack balking. Not yet. Kid. They'll crucify us. They already are. The shout echoed. Slamming doors. Alex mediated later, holding Christopher through shivers of rage. He's scared for you. Forgiveness came dawn. Jack's apology over burnt toast. Lost my head. Your right, time to stand. The rally dawned brittle. Wind whipping banners along Main Street. 50 strong gathered the young mom. Rec center volunteers. Even Tompkins. Sheepish with a sign, neighbors first. Hargrove's cronies jeered from sidewalks. But Jack took the mic. Voice carrying like thunder over flakes. I built this town span strong against floods. But hate. That erodes foundations. He gestured to Christopher and Alex. Linked arms defiant. My son's love ain't erosion, it's the bedrock. Cheers drowned boos. Cameras flashing for the Gazette. Backlash surged, eggs on the Harlan door. Tires slashed on Alex's beater. But momentum shifted, signatures flipped. Council waffling. In the eye? Intimacy deepened, Jack joining movie nights. Chuckling at queer rom-coms. Alex cooking arepas. Jack trading war yarns for abuela tales. Then, fracture, Alex's father showed. Unannounced at the cafe. Christopher arrived to find them squared off Raul Rivera. Stocky with silver temples. Eyes blazing. You poisoned my boy. He accused. Finger jabbing. Alex. Pale. Intervened. Pops. It's me. My choice. Raul's gaze flicked to Christopher. Disgust curling. Abomination. The slur landed like ice. But Jack, arriving for coffee, stepped up. Easy. Sir. That's my family you're cursing. Raul scoffed, storming out. But the damage lingered, Alex ghosting for days. Texts unanswered. Christopher's pleas met voicemail. Panic rising. Jack drove them to Cleveland. Uninvited. Pounding on the Rivera door. Raul answered. Weary. What now? Jack. Hat in hand. A father to a father. Lost a buddy once to silence. Won't lose my boy or yours. Inside. Over cafecito. Truths traded, Raul's own youth. A forbidden crush in seminary. Buried for vows. Tears fell. Hugs grudging then genuine. Alex emerged. Embracing Christopher. He gets it. Sort of. Spring thawed grudges. Petition crumbling under scrutiny, Hargrove exposed for kickbacks. Resigning in disgrace. Jack landed foreman at a rival firm. Bridges mending. But joy crested bittersweet, a letter from Tommy's sister. Unearthed online forgiveness in faded ink. He spoke of you always. Jack wept. Then celebrated with a backyard fire. Toasting ghosts. Christopher and Alex. Ring shopping in secret. Dreamed futures. Yet tests lingered, a homophobic slur at Alex's bar. Fisticuffs quelled by Jack's timely arrival. In the fray. Love proved steel. Summer unfurled lazy and luminous over Milford. Fireflies winking like conspirators in the Harlan yard. The petition's ashes fertilized growth. The rec center bloomed with pride flags and workshops. Jack volunteering as grill master for events. Christopher's portfolio swelled. A queer arts grant landing him a solo show in Cleveland, canvases of fractured families mended in rainbow welts. Alex co-curated. There's synergy electric. Hands brushing in the studio late. Inspirations igniting passions deeper than skin. This is us. Alex breathed one dusk. Paint smeared and sated on drop cloths. Building worlds. Christopher kissed his temple. Ours first. Family wove tighter. Marlene's barbecues now Rivera affairs. Raul thawing with grumbled jokes. His wife Elena baking tres leches that rivaled mom's pies. Jack and Raul bonded over tackle boxes. Fishing Lake Erie at Dawn Hoppers traded for confessions. Never thought I'd fish with a man who gets it. Jack admitted. Line casting smooth. Raul chuckled. Nor I. With a gringo who loves fierce. Christopher watched from shore. Alex's head on his shoulder. Heart full. But shadows nipped heels. A client balked at Christopher's agenda. Freelance dipping. Alex's bar tab complaints. Shifts teetering. Whispers persisted Hargrove's loyalists. A new petition brewing on school curricula. Crisis crested August. Heat wave mirroring tempers. A school board meeting erupted protests over inclusive books. Parents clutching petitions like torches. Jack testified again. Voice gravel steady. Teach em love. Not fear. My boy learned it from Melate. But true. Applause thundered. But outside. Ugliness waited, a pickup swerving close. Beer can shattering on Christopher's windshield as he tailed home. Glass shards like accusations. He pulled over shaking. Calling Alex. They're not done. Sirens wailed. Deputy Tompkins sarfed. Face grim. Kids. Probably. But we'll watch. Comfort came in layers, Alex's arms. Jack's shotgun cleaned, just in case. Marlene's ferreted lawyer filing reports. In the siege's heart. Romance reignited. Alex proposed on a whim kneeling in the garage amid Jack's tools. Ring pilfered from a vintage shop. Simple band etched with coordinates of their first kiss. Marry me. Chris. Make this forever. Tears blurred. Yes tumbling out. Jack bursting in on the whoop. Bear hugging them both. Damn right. Wedding's on me. Planning frenzy ensued. Venue the Lake Pavilion. Marlene on cakes. Raul on music salsa infusing vows. But invites tested, old friends wavering. RSVP's spotty. One no-gutted Christopher's college buddy. Ghosting post-rally. The Bachelor Eve. Boys' night twisted poignant. Jack. Alex. Christopher at the dive. Beers foaming toasts. To sons. Jack raised. Eyes glassy. And the loves that save em. Stories spun Tommy's ghost honored in a shot. Raul's seminary tale retold with laughs. Staggering home. Unity sealed. Wedding dawn broke golden. Guests trickling 50 souls. Defiant rainbow. Christopher. In linen suit. Waited lakeside. Alex approaching arm in arm with Raul, who nodded gruff approval. Vows exchanged over waves, in storms and sun. I choose you. Rings slid. Kisses sealed. Cheers erupted. Jack's speech cracked the sky. Sarah. If you're watching, we did good. Tissues passed. Tears flowing free not from loss, but love's unyielding grip. Honeymoon whispered cabin in the Smokies. But first, reception under tents. Dances blending Cash and Bad Bunny. As stars wheeled, Christopher and Alex slipped away. Hands linked. Futures bright. Milford watched. Some softened. Others unchanged, but the Harlans stood unbowed. A year blurred into legacy. Autumn leaves carpeting Milford in gold as Christopher and Alex settled into a fixer-upper bungalow, Jack's wedding gift. Hammers echoing weekends. Christopher's show toured. Panels on queer visibility filling calendars. Alex opened a pop-up gallery in the cafe. Walls alive with local voices. Raoul mentored. His church softening edges with potlucks. Jack, semi-retired, mentored apprentices bridges of steel and stories. But the call came quiet. October Eve, Tommy's sister. Margaret, 82 and frail. Reaching out via the obituary trace. Heard from a friend in Cleveland. Said Jack Harlan's boy married. Tommy'd smile. They drove to Pittsburgh. Nerves jangling like keys. Margaret's bungalow smelled of potpourri and past. Photos lining shelves, Tommy young and laughing. Arm round a spectral Jack. She hugged them fierce. Eyes sharp. He carried you always. Jack. Letters I found after he passed. Burned some. But these. Envelopes yellowed. Words spilling. Jack. My anchor in the storm. If fate twists. No, I loved. Jack's hands shook. Reading aloud. Voice weaving ghosts to life. Christopher held Alex. Tears tracing their joined rings. Margaret shared more Tommy's life post-war. A quiet architect in Frisco. Love's fleeting but fond. He never married. Said his heart was spoken for. Closure bloomed bittersweet. A final bridge crossed. Back home. Catharsis. Jack hosting a memorial under the old oak. Photos pinned. Beers cracked. Allies gathered the young mom. Now with a thriving kid. Tompkins. Toasting amends. Raoul spoke. Love don't ask permission. As dusk fell, Jack turned to Christopher. You're coming out. Save me. Son. Shook loose what I'd chained. The group hushed, then wept tears for unspoken pains. For loves reclaimed. Alex pulled Christopher close. See. Ripples. Winter wove holidays warm. Thanksgiving at the Riveras. Elena's tamales mingling with Marlene's rolls. Christmas with carols and confessions. Jack gifting Christopher Tommy's dog tags. Wear M proud. Spring brought bloom, a baby announcement from the young mom. Rainbow Nursery. Christopher's book deal. Illustrations of fractured hearts mended. But summer tested anew. Hargrove's return. Running for council on traditional tickets. Forums flared. Old wounds reopening. The debate hall packed. Air electric. Hargrove sneered from podium. Values under siege, agendas like the Harlans. Boos rose. But Jack stood. Mic in hand. Agenda. Try truth. My son came out scared spitless. I reacted wrong at first, froze like a fool. But then, I remembered Tommy. The man I loved and lost to silence. And I chose love. Gasps. Then silence profound. That choice shook us all. Tears. Yeah. Plenty. But they watered growth. Hargrove faltered. Crowd turning. Election night. Victory. Progressives swept. Inclusivity enshrined. In the afterglow. Backyard bonfire. Jack. Christopher. Alex. Families merged. To reactions that heal. Jack toasted. Eyes on his son, now husband. Now father in spirit. Christopher raised his glass. Voice thick. To dads who surprise. Laughter mingled with sniffles. The circle closing. As embers died. Alex whispered. Our story, it's epic. Christopher nodded. Kissing him under stars. And just beginning. Milford slept. But in hearts. A revolution whispered, love. Once shaken free. Endures tears and all.